Yeah, even someone like PJ Duke is going to have to win ugly from time to time. And Cole Mirasola is going to have this competitive disadvantage follow him for his entire collegiate career.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling, and as always, thank you so much for checking out another edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. My name is Zach Sako, and I am your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State Wrestling and Penn State Football. U20 World Championships are underway, and so far, of the 5 Penn State affiliated wrestlers, PJ Duke and Cole Mirasola are headed to their respective medal rounds, but we learned a bit about both PJ Duke and, in particular, Cole Mirasola in this stint now as they continue to wrestle on and represent the United States on the world stage. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Be a part of the conversation as we'll talk about PJ Duke individually and his performances and Cole Mirasola and this competitive disadvantage that is going to be with him for the entirety of his collegiate career and why it actually might stop post-collegiate career. So we'll begin with PJ Duke because he's in the gold medal round at 70 kilos, and nothing was unexpected from PJ Duke. But we will talk about the semifinals bout because he had to win ugly. And the great wrestlers, the elite ones, they're not going to win. And I think most wrestling fans, most Penn State fans are going to understand that. But just with this recent run that PJ Duke is on, it's almost hard to not consider and not remember the fact that, he is susceptible to some tough matches. I mean, he pinned Yianni Diakomihalis, a 4-time NCAA champ, who's truly in the prime of his career. And PJ Duke is just now emerging onto this. I know he's been well known and he's been renowned since the start, truly the start of his career. But as you graduate levels, he's going into his freshman season at Penn State, and he defeated a 4-time NCAA champion, the 2 reigning NCAA champions in Antrell Taylor and Ridge Lovett from Nebraska. So to see PJ Duke struggle, gritty, not pretty type of victory in that semifinals bout, and at the U20 level, it's different when it's on the senior level, right? Where, Diakomihalis is going to give you issues, right? And you're going to really have to earn it. And then you might assume, well, he's going back down to the U20 level, so is he really going to struggle that much? And to an extent, you're going to have those obstacles because these are still the world's best of the best. These are the elite of the elite. But even PJ Duke is still able to make easy work of his opponents. Now let's talk about those first 3 matches that set up this interesting semifinals match, to say the least. Again, where Duke just it wasn't textbook. Had to adjust, but it's those small little advantages that make you that truly elite wrestler. I have high hopes for Duke to potentially be a 4-time NCAA champion, and it's because of results like these. You can't deny this body of work. So Duke wins the first match, 1 minute, 19 seconds, tech fall, 11-0 over his opponent out of Turkey. And then moves on and gets a pin. A 44-second pin over Sanchez Zepeda of Mexico. And then he's into the quarterfinals. And then another solid victory. I mean, it's a tech fall, so I'm not going to bat an eye at it. But he did give up some points this time. Okay, so it wasn't in 60 seconds or less. No, this one took some time, but he wins 14-4 against Nikayev of France and advances to the semifinals. So for the most part, Duke's making it look easy at this point in time. 2 tech falls, 1 pin through 3 matches against truly elite competition at this level, at the U20 level again, but he's shown success on the senior level. So this is expected, right? Well, then he gets to the semifinals and he's facing Elahi of Iran. And this one was back and forth. I mean, this very much mirrored a senior level type of competition, and it would not shock me if these two stay in the same weight class, because who knows at the end of the day. That Duke and Elahi, maybe this is a future international rivalry on the world stage, the Olympic stage. Okay, that's what I saw here. I saw two pretty evenly matched wrestlers. We're going to get to the big mistake that Elahi made, but Duke still was able to pull out, I don't want to call them tricks, but just made the small decisions that changed the entire course of this match. It's being the more cerebral wrestler in the moment. I like the way that he towed the circle. Duke and Elahi, I mean, we're going at it back and forth. The strength, the speed, the intensity, but it was the quick wits. It was knowledge of the sport and the technique to secure that. He wins 2-2 by criteria. So the margin of error here is very minimal. And that's how you're going to have to win sometimes. Now, here's where Duke capitalized. When I talk about being the smarter, more cerebral wrestler, Elahi certainly came up short, because I can't believe on this stage now, Penn State wrestling fans, I think, have seen this, at least can relate to this recently with the likes of a Mitchell Messenbrink, for example, against David Carr not too long ago. Elahi did something similar where he thought he was going to win. He did not know the score. So that goes, it's that awareness. Now, it's not entirely that, but I think of the takedown where he's at the edge of the circle. It looks like, hey, you could just, one of you, you're both down to the ground. Who's going to score points here? And Duke is able to go to the side and turn that into a takedown and return back to the center of the mat. And that's the difference. Those little nuances where Elahi doesn't necessarily have enough awareness or maybe the strength to pull that move off when they're pretty much at a neutral position there at the edge of the circle. But Duke was able to capitalize on that. And it's those gritty, not pretty victories, because again, it's like, well, he didn't win by 5 or 6 points. No, it wasn't a tech fall, but it still was a decisive victory. He did what was necessary. I think something that's also intelligent here is Duke realizes that Elahi doesn't know what the score is. And in those final 30 seconds, you don't want to tip off your opponent. You have to start becoming a good actor at that point in time. And Duke did just that. Still pushing, not just sitting there passively while not over-exaggerating and over-exerting himself there in that moment, because he is in the lead. He knows that he's up 2-2 by criteria. But Elahi's not pushing the pace. He's doing the same thing. He's extremely passive, and that cues to Duke, oh, he doesn't know. So I'm going to be able to finish this out and just run out the clock here and cruise into the championship. So Elahi had some self-inflicted mistakes here. But again, that was a pretty even bout up until the point where you could see things shift and it's, oh, Elahi doesn't quite know what the score is and he's running out of time. But Duke plays into that as he should. You don't want to really start backing away and say, and again, tip off your opponent and give away the strategy to where he reacts and says, oh, now I got to push the pace. Because aside from Diakomo Hollis defeating Duke in that first bout before he won the final two in that best of 3 to get to this point in the world team trials to get to this point, Elahi probably gave Duke his toughest match so far that I can remember over the course of this circuit here between U20s and the senior level here. So Duke is into the gold medal round at 70 kilos. Impressive run. These are people that have medaled on the international stage, and tech falls, pins. And sometimes when you don't have your best, you're not in top form, you still find ways to win against elite competition where they make you pay for mistakes or when you come up short from your best in that given moment. So Duke is in the championship tomorrow, where I do expect him to bring home gold. That was the expectation here for PJ Duke. Has not disappointed at this point, but things can change. Competition like this is on a day-to-day basis. If Duke doesn't have his best, I think he's good enough when he's not at his best to continue to win these types of matches, but we will see. Now, Cole Mirasola, freestyle, folk style, doesn't matter. This is a very telling competitive disadvantage that he's going to have to deal with. I think he can overcome it, but it is going to be difficult if he intends to win NCAA titles. We're going to talk about it coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by DripDrop. When I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything is working better. My energy, my mood, my focus. Getting enough fluids every day isn't always easy though. And that's why I've been loving DripDrop. DripDrop is doctor developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half of the sugar of a leading sports drink. Now, I have tried DripDrop for myself, and I gotta say, it has lived up to the hype. I got the citrus variety pack, the zero sugar kind, and it has all of the flavor, all of the great taste, and I get the variety. So I get to try all of these different flavors because I like the variety. I want that, but I have definitely noticed that it has helped boost those different things. Energy, mood, helping with hydration, and everything else. And you don't have to compromise on the flavor if you choose the zero sugar variety pack. And right now, DripDrop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. All you got to do is head over to DripDrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That is DripDrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. And today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute you want to head to a ball game with friends and family? Maybe it's game day, and suddenly you realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without all of the stress. With the money that you save on tickets, you can now splurge on food, drinks, merchandise, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it all possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Get this, prices on the app actually drop closer when you get to first pitch, when you get to game time. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And tickets for Penn State football games are up on Gametime right now. It's preseason, but we're getting so close. And if you've never been to Beaver Stadium, if you've never been to a specific venue before, that's where Gametime is truly a game changer, those clear seat views. So you know your point of view ahead of time. There's no second guessing. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, Cole Mirasola is good enough, great enough to overcome this competitive disadvantage, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to be a problem against that better competition. And it's unfortunate, he's not a natural heavyweight. He's not a natural heavyweight, which means he's going to be giving up not only the weight, he's sacrificing the weight because you don't want to just put on unnecessary weight because then that will actually make Cole Mirasola take a step backwards. It will hinder him more than it helps him. But also the height. There, you could see it against wrestlers that are his age at the right. They're all going to be at his age at the U20 level. Okay. But you see with Mirasola that the height, the weight, he's giving up a lot of ground. And when you have more technical talent, they're just purely talented. Maybe their technique isn't A+, but they get there on raw natural ability, just the skill, just the power, the strength, and then, you have that length, you have that height, you have maybe a significant weight advantage that you can use, and then you combine that with the speed and everything else because of your athleticism. That's going to be an issue that's going to show up not only in freestyle, but over the course of his Penn State folk style collegiate career. You are going to face, now not every heavyweight is Gable Steveson. And, for example, a Luke Luffman in Illinois has one more season. That is a guy that is almost, I think he's a full heavyweight, or he's very close to it. Yeah, Gable Steveson wasn't even a full heavyweight. And most heavyweights are going away where they do sacrifice. They don't go all the way up to 285, but they wrestle around 240, 250. Greg Kirkfleet was at 255, for example. So Cole Mirasola is going to have to find a way to close that competitive gap. Now, how does he do it? Because he can do it. Well, you have to become that much better in all those other skill sets. What I think Cole really has going for him as a 97 kilo turned 285, right? Going over that threshold. Because if there was another middleweight class there in between 197 and all the way up to heavyweight, Cole would have a perfect home because he is a phenomenal wrestler at 97 kilos, but for his collegiate career, he's moving up to 125. And that's why I think, hey, maybe down the road, he goes back down to 97 because it might make more sense. He's twins with Connor Mirasola, and they have the same build, where they make more sense at 92 and 97 kilos when it comes to the freestyle circuit and all of this. But collegiately, there is no equivalent to 97 kilos. But Cole can overcome this. It's going to take a lot of work. One, he still needs to get used to the heavyweight build. Greg Kirkfleet had to go through it. It's more than just a redshirt season. Because Cole can be competitive. I think he has All-America capabilities as a redshirt freshman. But for him to truly start being a serious national title contender, not fringe, maybe if he catches lightning in a bottle, he could get to the semifinals type of thing. He's going to be fighting for a spot on the podium probably for these next 2 years. And then the back half of his career, kind of like Greg Kirkfleet, that's where you're going to notice a significant boost, a significant move in everything, because it's about getting used to being a heavyweight wrestler. So that's one. You have to balance the new type of wrestler that you are. But I think that's also what plays into Cole's advantage. If we want to flip it, if we want to say this isn't totally a disadvantage, it's not ideal. It is going to affect him. But use that if he can adjust. And I think he can. Build upon that speed. What makes Cole and Connor, for what it's worth, because they're very similar in terms of style, characteristics, right? At that 92, 97 kilo threshold, they are some of the quickest. They are some of the fastest wrestlers. They are talented on their feet. Cole can use that to his advantage. So be the fastest wrestler. Be the quickest wrestler. And I know that he knows this. I know that the coaching staff knows this, but I want to convey that between you and I. That, just because he doesn't have the size, the height, the weight that he's giving up doesn't mean that he can't use things in his arsenal to bridge that gap. Speed is one of them. Wrestling on your feet as much as possible is one of them, because that's where he's technically sound. So speaking of technique, you can perfect your technique. You can be the best technician at heavyweight above everybody else. And it's those little nuances that will get you into that, hey, he's a top 4 wrestler and can be a national title contender here for, you would like to think, more than just 1 year of his collegiate career. I think Cole Mirasola is capable of that. So the same thing that I use to describe PJ Duke. I mean, this applies to all the Penn State wrestlers. They emphasize the technique, the smarts of it, the chess aspect of it. I want to use a basketball analogy here, but I think this applies to Cole Mirasola in this case, where you see the small ball lineups sometimes, the speedy, quick lineups where they give up some height and don't get as many rebounds, but it's the speed, it's the agility that really puts pressure on a taller, bigger lineup. Again, that's basketball, completely different. I get it. There's five players on a court at a given time. In wrestling, it's mano-a-mano. You have your coaches in the corner, but it's all on you. But I think this analogy certainly applies to Cole Mirasola. And I'm not here to say that oh, he's struggling, he has no chance. The guy's at the U20 World Championships. He's doing something right. He's the representative. But it's still going to affect him, and he's going to have to put in the extra work in other categories that make you a talented wrestler to be able to overcome the sacrifices that he is making in terms of height, in terms of weight, to be that true elite wrestler. So Cole Mirasola as the starter for this upcoming season, and he'll be a 4-year starter at heavyweight. You see it already. I mean, he's going for bronze tomorrow. He's going for bronze. And he teched his first opponent. Gritty, not pretty victory in the quarterfinals, 3-0. But it showed up in full force against Kasembik. And those were wrestlers that were all taller than him. They were all taller than him, and he won those first two. But it was the third one against Kasembik, and I think there was a lot of negative momentum there as it was. Because he challenged an early, his team challenged an early takedown. He lost. He's down 3-0. And then you could kind of just tell that the vibe certainly shifted there for Mirasola. Again, I'm not trying to imply that this is the end-all be-all here for Mirasola, but it certainly is something that he's going to have to deal with his entire collegiate career. And it could end his collegiate career if he decides to drop back down to 97, where he is naturally there at that weight class. Kyle Snyder did it. I know that's a lofty comparison. I really do. But I'm saying it's a similar trajectory where Snyder wrestled up at heavyweight at Ohio State and then dropped down to 97 kilos, and look at the success he's had on the international stage. Cole Mirasola might have a similar blueprint, similar timeline here in this case. But he's going for bronze. For somebody that is giving up that kind of height, is going for bronze tomorrow. So that should not be overlooked, but I am here to say that when it comes to the NCAA landscape, it is something that Cole Mirasola is going to have to be on top of so that he doesn't get left off the podium, so that he isn't a weak spot in the lineup for Penn State. And I don't think he will be. That's where we'll do it. That's where we'll wrap things up for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out this episode. So, both of those wrestlers, Duke's going for gold tomorrow. Cole Mirasola is going for bronze. And let me talk about the other United States results here. Justin Rademacher, Oregon State affiliated wrestler, is into the championship as well at 97 kilos. And D. Lockett has been pulled back into repechage. He lost earlier in the day, and he's now back in the tournament. So he could go for bronze if all things end well. He's affiliated with Oklahoma State, for those who don't know. And then also tomorrow, Anthony Knox of Cornell is going to be competing at the lightweight. Luke Stanich of Lehigh is going to be going at 65 kilos. William Hankel and Connor Mirasola at 79 and 92 kilos, respectively, are the other Penn State affiliated wrestlers that are going to be competing as well tomorrow. Marcus Blaze still has to wait his turn, but that's what's on deck for tomorrow at the U20 World Championships. 4 out of the 5 Penn State affiliated wrestlers will be in action either in the qualifying rounds or going for a medal. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section about either a PJ Duke or Cole Mirasola, or what you hope to expect from those other two that get into the action. My name is Zach Seiko. I'm your host as always. This is Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. We're going to continue with the coverage of the U20 championships and the implications that they have for these wrestlers during their time at Penn State, plus more Penn State football coverage as the season is nearly underway. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day.